Please welcome to the stage Kenya Ivy, Enterprise Growth Partner, We Are Rosie, Casey Rosenbaum, Senior Manager, Global Creative Services, IHG Hotels and Resorts, and Jane Chance, Freelance Creative Director, We Are Rosie.
Hi. Get cozy.
Yeah. Hey. This is so amazing. In person, live, at the end of the day. Thank you for hanging in there with us.
Yeah.
Could not be more thrilled to be here today, to be on the stage with so many amazing men and women who are really affecting change in such a positive way in this industry. I think at the end of our time, we can walk away feeling that we are making progress, that we have made progress, but there's still work to be done, and we're here to do that. So thank you for joining. Thank you for being here.
So honored.
Yesterday, Cindy Gallup lit the stage up all the way, really burned it down. And she called out Stephanie Noddy Olson, who is the founder of We Are Rosie, for really being a visionary and executing and delivering something so amazing to this marketplace, a real opportunity for people to work in a way that works for their lives. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to dig into that. We're going to say, hey, well, what does it really look like? We're going to dig into a real live case study with our partners here, IHG, and with one of our amazing Rosies. Thank you so much, Casey. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to just dig right in, and I would love to start with you, Casey, if that is okay.
Of course.
To just talk to us a bit about in-housing. We know that we've been hearing about this trend for quite some time. It has been years that we've been hearing about that. But, what was behind your decision to say, this is what we need to do and the time for it is now?
So, great question, and I know a lot of companies go back and forth, over time. Working with agencies, having partner agencies, bringing it all back in-house with creative. And, I'd like to think that I was the mastermind behind the decision, but so many things, happening in our world impacted our progress. So, going into or experiencing a pandemic, like a lot of companies, funding dried up, and we had to make decisions about how we were going to support a global enterprise with limited funding. And so, it started, deep into the pandemic with us pulling in resources from all over the company to support our creative efforts, to be able to reassure our guests to be a part of their experience if they were going to travel in the time of COVID. And so, we started totally in-house. We started with, this ragtag group of people. And, as we started to come out of recovery, we were like, wow, this is actually working. We're supporting the business. We're making an impact. So how do we scale coming out of, moving into recovery? And so, we had to figure out how to answer the call to the business when they needed it. It wasn't always going to be consistent. We didn't have the funding. How is it going to work? And so that's kind of where We Are Rosie came in. The idea of a freelance model where we have in-house FTEs collaborating with freelancers in a flexible model. I'm meeting Jade for the first time in person. She and I have been working together for 2 years. And we're fast friends, and we came together and built a team and have figured out how to scale when we needed to scale, have the agility when we needed to have the agility, because we had this team set up. So
that's fantastic. And I think now there are about 20 Rosies working at different areas of IHG's business, which is just fantastic to see how this relationship has grown and what it looks like today versus just even a year ago. I wanted to also ask you, talk to us about flexible talent specifically, because that is really the differentiator and why I think We Are Rosie is so special. It's because we can be kind of that accordion model to expand as business. Sometimes we know that happens and you need more hands on deck, but you don't have the approval for FTEs, or business needs to be on the dime and contract itself, and we can kind of shrink down as needed. And so that flexibility I think is key. So talk to us specifically about the flexibility that the partnership offers.
You said it really well. I mean, it like unlimited flexibility. And what's I think also really amazing is that our talent that we're working with, We Are Rosie to secure, is coming from everywhere, all over, different walks of life, different backgrounds, and that's certainly impacting the kind of work that we're doing. The flexibility is, we're scaling our business. We've kind of learned as we go what we need. As Kenya said, we've got 20 people who are coming in and out of our business based on the needs of the business. So, it could be we got to do a video one day, but then we've got to write a radio spot another day, and we've got to do a promotional campaign the next. And sometimes you don't have as much in the pike, right? And we're able to work with We Are Rosie to let our freelancers build their time, make their living, and then when we need them, we've got this bench set up where we've been working really closely to pre-vet our talent, figure out what's going to work for our culture, for our brands, and especially now going into the holiday season, we're bursting at the seams, and we've been able to work together to build our bench, create that roster, and keep us moving without losing any time at all. And so I think that's also like a huge piece of this, right? It's flexibility, like at a moment's notice, which is hard to come by sometimes when there are so many layers to the creative process.
Agree. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Jane, I'm sorry. Let's really dig in here. I want to hear your amazing point of view. I do. I want to hear from you why and how that process worked to make the leap from the traditional way of working, why that did not work for you anymore, and then coming to We Are Rosie and what that has been like.
Yeah. Been in the industry for a while, been at brands, been at agencies, networked, and ones nobody in this room's ever heard of. So I've been around, and always really depended on the security of being an FTE, right? It just was the way I thought it worked. And of course, I would be in agencies and we'd bring in freelancers and I'd be like, what are these guys and gals doing, right? But finally, I think for me and my career and where I wanted to be and my values, where I saw myself going, I hit a wall. And I said, I can fucking do this myself. So let's figure that out, right? Yeah. So I did. But freelance is a hustle, and I'm sure there are a lot of people in here that would raise their hands and say that, it is a hustle, and you're running your own business, but you're also trying to hone your craft. And generally, when people want freelancers, it's in that, oh shit kind of moment, right?
Right.
And you're not getting really any onboarding. You're not really getting any sort of direction because it's an emergency situation, and therefore you're really not knowing if you're providing any value. And don't get me started on chasing down getting paid either, right? So that's a whole nother thing. But what I really loved about the opportunity with We Are Rosie when it was brought to me was that it seemed to bring those two things together, right?
I love that.
So I had a talent partner, who could really, speak to me about the role, who could talk to me, who could put me in touch with other people as I needed to figure it out. But also, somebody who's like taking care of the benefits stuff, making sure I get paid every week. Yeah. I mean, that's no joke.
Right.
Especially when you're a freelancer. So that support, along with the support that IHG's given me, which is the whole other side of this coin, which has made it so wonderful. Kind of made it a no-brainer.
And you're right. When you talked about the kind of the connotation of freelance, the angst that's there, that it's typically very reactive to fill a gap very quickly. Yeah. But this was very intentional. I think that the approach that you all have taken at IHG is very intentional. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about how that intentionality has favorably shaped the experience.
Yeah. Can I start?
Yeah, you start. Yeah. Say.
So, like Jane, I've spent a lot of time on the agency side, and so when we, decided to create this like hybrid model, it was like, gosh, I put my agency hat back on, and I said, how would I want this to, how would I want this to go? And I know everyone in this room probably values the importance of good process, the importance of good management, and setting people up for success. And it all really comes down to people management. It's not anything like profound by any means, but I think we went into this saying, they're freelance, but we're gonna give them an IHG email, We're going to set up agile routines. They're going to be a part of this team, and we're all going to be in this together. Yeah. And so, we really asked all of our freelancers, Jane being like, one of our first, like, be you, communicate freely, and defend your work. Like, let's work together to bring your work to life. So, we kind of started there, and then, we've constant feedback loops with the We Are Rosie team, with Jane, with the other freelancers, to find a model that I think makes everyone feel like they're a part of something, as opposed to feeling like really transactional, right?
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is to remind everybody that you were just talking about freelancers, right? Yeah. You were just talking about doing all of those things with, for, and as a team with freelancers, and that doesn't meet always. That just it doesn't compute, right? Like, I'm Jane Chance, Freelance Island, population 1 most of the time, right? And I don't feel like I have any support, and I don't know if my work was great, or if there was any feedback on it. It was, 40 headlines by 5 p.m., please, right?
Right.
About what? Right, so I think that's what's so great about what you guys have set up, and it is very process-driven, which isn't creative's always favorite.
I know.
But we need it. We have robust team channels. Like, to a person, all of the Rosies that I talk to, everybody always knows what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Right? There's never a floundered moment. There's never a what should I do next. There's never an issue of priorities, and having that kind of just support and that kind of feeling as a freelancer, it's not like anything I've ever experienced.
I'm going to ask you this, Jane, to talk to us a little bit about, well, you really alluded to it when you said you feel like you're on an island, party of one, Jane Chance.
Yeah.
How is it different with the other freelancers that are typically there at IHG? You guys are,
great question.
I think, a lot more collaborative than is typical in that space. Talk to us about what that is like.
Yeah, we are, which is great, and we've sort of banded together. In our pursuit of, doing good work and doing, great creative. And as our team has scaled so quickly, there have been a lot of new people coming on. So I've been really fortunate to be in the position to, help people or, fill in blanks whenever they are. So that's been really fulfilling. The other thing that's cool from a completely creative perspective is that I'm not partnered with a specific art director. Right? So I get to work with all kinds of different art directors, or depending on the challenge of the project, I might just partner up with a production designer, and we might get something out real quick if we need to. Yeah. So that's really interesting. Also, as a creative director, I don't always just work on conceptual stuff. Sometimes I'm just down in there, writing the banner ads with everybody else. And for me, I like that variety. I don't love banner ads, but I like the variety, right? So
you don't love banner ads?
Sorry, banner ads. But that variety is really nice. And that Rosie team really feeds into all of that. And also, we become sort of stakeholders to each other. I feel like when you're a freelancer, everybody's your stakeholder.
Sure.
Right? So you're convincing your creative partners, and then your account partners, and then their clients, right? They're stakeholders. But I mean, even from the first, and I think it was hard for some of the Rosies who were, typical non-Rosie freelancers before, to really feel that empowerment, right? To be like, I'm here to push a creative point of view, and I'm encouraged and expected to do so. So
I love that.
Yeah.
What would you say to other leaders either within your organization, or maybe even folks in the room who are like, okay, this sounds like something. This sounds interesting. It certainly sounds like something that could serve my business well. What would you say to them to be open to the idea? What would you say to other leaders that perhaps sit in the same seat that you sit, but have never thought about this approach to business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Gosh, my gut says, like, especially in a world of creative, where sometimes you can't know until something's in market how a consumer is going to react to it.
Yeah.
Try anything. I know everyone has their agency partners. There are some amazing, amazing talent sitting at agency.
Yes.
And you know, we'll continue to work with agency in a more blended model, but there's been something really unique about being able to bring somebody like Jane, such a talented creative director, to the table with our business without all of the other layers. And it's really unlocked for us amazing quality, it's unlocked speed, and it's unlocked like incredible efficiency, and not just from like a budgetary perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, be open to different ways of thinking about how you can scale, how you can deliver your best creative product. It may not be just defaulting to a standard agency model.
That's true.
Yeah, and I would just echo that from my perspective, from the freelancer's perspective, like, yes, being open to that, but, you know, be a little more intentional about it, right? Like, there are ways to plan. There is some runway. You can have a bench so that your freelancers are teed up, or at least if you invest just a small bit for somebody to get involved or get immersed in your brand or your brand's product or your agency client. You know, having them, you know, more at the ready gives them such a better experience, but also gives the freelancer such a better experience. So, I mean, I think I see real opportunity for that.
What would you say to the freelancer who is working in some capacity that perhaps doesn't exactly excite them, and they've thought about freelancing,
right?
Or they've even considered We Are Rosie, I don't know.
Right.
But what would you say to them to encourage them, or to kind of just mitigate that fear that sometimes comes with taking that leap?
Yeah, well, I think freelance always felt like such a leap, right? It did to me, but I think what's so fascinating and important about the We Are Rosie business model is that you enter a community, right? And you're not the only one hustling for you. You've got a whole lot of people hustling for you.
I love that.
And you've got a lot of people who are opening doors that you could maybe not open yourself, right? Or it'd take a lot of LinkedIn and email hours, and why not just join a group who already has these sort of connections? And the other thing I like is that after a few conversations, like, we're really able to identify where my core strengths are. I mean, I've been in the business a long time. I'm a copywriter by trade, but I do some things a lot better than I do other things, right? And that seemed to really matter. That seemed to really, that interest in learning my skills seemed really important to my Rosie team. And that made me feel great. And it also made me feel like I was going to be getting the kind of gigs or the kind of opportunities that I wanted.
Yeah.
Right? So a little selfish speaking here, but
yeah.
I mean, don't get if you don't ask, right?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I love that. I just would love to hear a little bit more from you, Jane. You touched on something that means a lot, and you said the sense of community.
Yeah.
You know, and I will just share that We Are Rosie invests so much time and resources in building up this community of now over 9,000 amazing marketers who want to be a part of what we're building here, and who want to work in a different way, who want to work in a way that works for their life. And I just think that that is so amazingly powerful. Talk to me about that sense of community that you touched on just a minute ago, being able to kind of tap into that as a freelancer, as a independent marketer at We Are Rosie.
Right. And it's multifaceted. I mean, I think there's security in the community that, like I said, I know I'm going to get paid, that there's opportunities for benefits, right? There's sense of community that I can go and browse openings and hang out in the garden and, and see what's going on, and, you know, feed my own curiosity about opportunities that are out there. You know, I've got dream brands that I'd love to work for, right? And so I have the ability to go and see, you know, where they are. But mostly, I think the most sense of community that I feel, especially in this really intentional model that IHG has set up, and that I get to work with Rosies who are really, you know, committed, and that creates a community in itself. So it's all layered. It's so cool.
It is so cool. So I want to just, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I think it would be great, Casey, for you to just share with us, not to put you on the spot, but just share with us, because you have more than 20 Rosies at IHG, and I know IHG is also committed to diversity, as are we, at We Are Rosie. Talk to me about what that diversity and having the opportunity to access such vast talent, what that means for your teams from a diversity perspective.
Oh gosh, from a business side, I would say like an amazing product. We just the inspiring work that we see every day, the passion that we see every day from everyone is just profound. And we have so many different, from Jane being a creative director, copywriter, to art directors who have touched incredibly different brands from ours, to to production designers who are so focused on every pixel being absolutely perfect. They have completely expanded our ability to serve our business. In so many ways, their perspective, their skill set, their experience, it is unlocked for us incredible trust and credibility in our partners that we work with in-house and beyond. And it's been, I think, a huge learning for the FTEs and realizing, what else is out there, and what else we haven't thought of. And, I've always been a fan of, two heads are better than one, but when you have, 2, 3, 4, 5 heads all over the country having different life experiences that are adding value, it's completely different. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I'll just say that if you are interested, if you are curious about what it means to be an independent marketer, you can go to wearerosie.com. You can learn more there. And if you are a leader of an agency or work in a capacity of leading teams at a brand or at an agency, and you're curious to learn, how can I get me some of this flexible layer that is able to contract and expand and do all of these dynamic things as my business continues to grow? Also, please go to wearerosie.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to connect with you. And I just want to thank you both so much for taking the time to share. Thank you, audience, for listening. This is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.